Welcome in, everybody, to this Kansas City Chiefs live stream presented by Bleacher Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and I'm joined by my co-host, Joey Segura. And over the course of the next 25 to 30 minutes, we're going to make the case that the Chiefs are the number one seed in the AFC. Now, I will say it's week 4, so it's hard to kind of project where the Chiefs are going to be, by December. But I think that we're already, not a quarter through the season, but we have a sample size to go off of. We have a better idea of what the team looks like both offensively and defensively. And we also know what some of the other teams in the AFC look like in terms of their deficiencies and their strong points. So I think that we can accurately give our take as to why we believe the Chiefs are the number one seed in the AFC. That's as of right now, as of October 4th, 2023. But before we get into that, let's talk about maybe the biggest headline in the NFL, and that is Taylor Swift being associated with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know that some of you that are watching this live stream might roll your eyes, but right now, the Kansas City Chiefs have maybe the most influential pop star on the planet right now in Taylor Swift, dating the best tight end on the planet in Travis Kelce. And the news coverage, the media coverage of this relationship, of them dating, it's been a lot. So, Joey, I want to get your thoughts on the Taylor Swift situation really quickly. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I just think it's kind of funny more than anything else because I used to always joke about how Patrick Mahomes could bring a celebrity to the city just because of how big he is.
Yeah.
But I think it's crazy. I think it's if you went back and you told Chiefs fans 20 years ago, oh, by the way, we'd be in the midst of a possible dynasty with 2 Super Bowls, 3 appearances, maybe the best quarterback to ever play, maybe the best head coach to ever coach, the best tight end ever. Oh, and that tight end's going to be dating the biggest pop star on the planet, and everybody's going to know about the Kansas City Chiefs now. So it's fun. I think it's a cool time to be a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I can agree the media sometimes overplays it a little bit, but at the end of the day, if you're a Chiefs fan, I don't understand how you can really get mad at it because the Chiefs are in every single conversation in NFL discourse. Now, for better or worse, in a couple months, we're probably going to get a diss track from Taylor Swift and her fans are going to attack the Chiefs. But until then, it's kind of a fun thing.
Here's the thing. I have no problem with Taylor Swift. I'm glad that Travis and her are dating. My problem is you can't watch any football game that the Chiefs play in now that she's in attendance for because every single commercial break, that camera is going to be locked on her. And it's almost become to the point where Taylor Swift is overshadowing the game on the field. And it's just interesting because, for the Super Bowl, there's always celebrities in attendance. And even for regular season games, celebrities being at football games is nothing new. But the fact that Travis Kelce is dating Taylor Swift, that's where this, storyline, I guess, has caught fire because the broadcasters talk about it. I mean, Taylor Swift fans, Swifties, you guys are crazy, insane. I mean, Travis Kelce's jersey sales went skyrocketing. His social media numbers went skyrocketing. And I just think that it's good that she's in attendance and supporting her boyfriend. But I could go without seeing Taylor Swift before every single commercial break. But I also will say, before we get into the reasons why we think the Chiefs are the number one seed in the AFC, I work for the Kansas City Chiefs. I was at that game against the Chicago Bears. I saw Taylor Swift in person, and to see everybody react to a person of that magnitude in the stadium, people were almost hysterical. Like there was moms, there was dads, there was little kids like taking pictures of her. There's a video going around of her picking up trash, and people are just freaking out that she's doing this simple human minute task. But it just kind of goes to show you that there's certain people that appear larger than life. And even Patrick Mahomes is like, whoa, like Taylor Swift is up there right now. Like that's crazy. But enough of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce drama. Quite frankly, you're never going to hear me talk about that again. But let's talk about why the Kansas City Chiefs are the number one seed in the AFC. The first reason that I'm going to give is the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been electric this year. Going into that Sunday night football game, the Chiefs defense ranked 6th in the NFL. And if you've watched the Chiefs, specifically in the Patrick Mahomes era, for those who are new, the Chiefs have never had a great defense with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. And right now, in the first 4 weeks, I guess 3 weeks of the season, 4 weeks of the season, they've balled out. They've been really good. They've been holding teams to like under 20 points. And they've just looked really efficient when they're doing that. And if this Chiefs defense continues to get better, I mean, the Chiefs are the number 1 seed in the AFC because we've never had a defense like this. And you're just adding this defense to an offense that we know has that potential.
Oh, definitely. And I think we all thought it would probably be a decent defense. I think that's just kind of the Spags way. They progress through the year. And I think that's what's most surprising is almost every year under Spags, and it's been the way since he was a DC in New York and everything, is his defenses notoriously start out kind of slow, not terrible, but pretty slow. But by the end of the year, they're up there and they're going to be able to give you a chance for a deep playoff run. But now you have a legitimate argument that you have one of the best defensive back groups in the NFL with the way L'Jarius Sneed and especially Trent McDuffie has been playing, who you could probably make an argument if I think he is the second best defensive player we have right now, aside from Chris Jones. And that defensive line, man, I mean, Chris Jones, and if the jump from game 1 to the other 3 we've played is not enough for the ownership and management to see what difference he makes, you need to have Chris Jones. And they're doing this without a Menahue right now. And I think Menahue's a very dynamic pass rusher. Once you get him back and you've got him and Karlaftis coming off the edge with Chris Jones in the middle, that's terrifying. And then the linebacking core going into this season, dude, it was just one of the best in the NFL. I think Nick Bolton is an all-pro level NFL player. I think that Willie Gay plays his role perfectly. I like the way Chenal plays with that grit in him. And then, of course, you have Tranquil, who's been a really nice veteran addition to that group. I just think they're so deep as a defensive unit. We've never had this under Patrick Mahomes. Like, you can really go through each part of this defensive unit, and it's hard to kind of poke holes in their defense right now, which has not been the case the last 4 or 5 years of Pat.
Well, and recently they've been doing it without Nick Bolton, who's had an ankle injury, and they don't get Charles Omenihu back until after week 6. Yeah. So once you add both those guys back into the mix, this defense is only going to get better. And like you mentioned, the Chiefs defense usually takes about 7 or 8 weeks just to get to midseason form. Mm-hmm. They're hitting midseason form from the jump. They were good in that week 1 game against the Lions. They went into Jacksonville and didn't give up a touchdown. Like, right now, this defense is firing on all cylinders. I think that we got to give credit to Spags. He's had a hell of a good job putting the right guys in the right places to succeed, which has been a problem in the past. He's just not utilized guys properly. But also, I'm going to kind of pat myself on the back. On a preseason live stream, I was talking about why I think, or I guess 5 bold predictions for the Kansas City Chiefs. And one of them was that the Chiefs defense was going to be a top 10 unit. I didn't think that they were going to be this good to start off with. And if they're top 7 right now, they're only going to get better. And I think maybe the biggest reason why the defense has been so good, we're not really seeing a lot of missed tackles. And like you said, the secondary has been so good at blanketing guys in coverage. And if you're blanketing the guys on the back end, you're allowing your front 4 ample time to get to the quarterback. And when you got Chris Jones and some young guys like Felix and George Karlaftis, they're going to get home eventually. And so right now they're just firing on all cylinders. And I think that the Chiefs defense is definitely a reason why the Chiefs will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about might be controversial to some, especially if you watch that Jets game. I believe the Chiefs offense in the end will prevail. Right now, the Chiefs offense is all over the place. I know that a lot of you probably are very angry / disappointed with the Chiefs wide receiver group at this point in time, and I'm not going to fight you on that. The Chiefs wide receivers have not been good. But if you've watched the Chiefs long enough, and specifically with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they always go through a dry spell or go through a couple games, even kind of go through like 6 or 7 games where this offense just doesn't look good. I remember a couple years ago that they barely beat the Giants. They barely beat the Packers, and Chiefs fans were very concerned with, this offensive capability. But in the end, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid figured it out. And I don't think anything's going to change. I think that when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes who didn't look great against the Jets, threw 2 bad interceptions, I think he's not going to make those same mistakes going forward. And at the end of the day, you still found a way to get it done. The Chiefs offense, for being as inconsistent as it has been over the last 4 weeks, they're still 3-1, guys. Like the Chiefs offense, despite not playing good at all, is 3-1. And when they figure it out, it's going to get a lot worse for opposing teams. So what do you think about that? Do you think the Chiefs offense is going to get better? And is that why they're going to be the number 1 seed at the end of the season?
I think so. And I think we had a comment earlier that is like, as long as Mahomes is there, they're going to be number 1. And I mean, that's just kind of the case. Like, as long as you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid there, and even without Andy Reid, when you have Patrick Mahomes under center, you're going to have a chance every single season. And I'll kind of piggyback off what you said. The year that we lost to the Bengals in the AFC title game, there was a six-week stretch where we were horrendous. I was in person at a Tennessee game when we went there, and the only point scored was a field goal. It was the worst thing I've ever had to sit through. But guess what? They wound up fixing it and losing in a championship in the AFC Championship in overtime. Now, I will say the one difference, to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, is that you had Tyreek Hill. And last year, I think people underestimated the loss of Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, was he an elite wide receiver? No, not by any means. But what he was a very, very consistent wide receiver that you knew you were going to get above average play from every single week. And I think that's the one thing we're lacking in that wide receiver unit right now. I think you look at it and you have a lot of potential guys. Kadarius Toney was a guy that probably has a chance to be a star. He's got that kind of talent. Sky Moore has a lot of talent. He hasn't necessarily broken through just yet. Obviously, Rashee Rice is a rookie. He's building up there, and MVS is a solid wide receiver right now, probably nothing more than that. And that's not a knock on these guys. I think they're all good wide receivers. I think the wide receiver core gets a little bit more hate than it should.
Yeah.
But to be completely honest, they're going to figure it out. I mean, when you have the best quarterback, the best tight end, and the best offensive head coach to ever coach in this league, you're going to figure it out. And the way the defense has been playing has given them so many opportunities to gain confidence when they play. I mean, when that defense is giving you stops and putting the offense back out there on the field, it's going to be a good thing. And after the game, you could see how frustrated guys were. Like, Kelsey was pissed, and they won the game, but he was just mad. And they basically asked him, like, well, what's wrong? He's like, well, we won, but we didn't win the game the way we should have won the game. Like, that defense was great. There's no reason the Chiefs shouldn't have beaten the Jets by 2 to 3 scores minimum. It should not have been that kind of game. But you have to win those kind of games. And I think that those kind of situations where the offense is struggling, but they still find a way to put enough points on the board and get those long drives going to end the game, that's going to be huge come playoff time.
Well, especially because I'm a big believer in the teams that, face adversity, end up winning the whole thing. Like, every team faces some sort of adversity, but there's some teams that just kind of coast. And the teams that have been coasting in recent years have been the Buffalo Bills. And, I look back to that 2020 Chiefs team, the team that was after the Super Bowl 54 win against the Niners. That might have been the best Chiefs team that I've seen. Like, they were so good offensively. They ran through the regular season. And then once they got to the playoffs and they had some adversity, granted, that adversity was not having an offensive line, they crumbled. So I do think that the Chiefs are going to have to go through these building block moments and suffering some adversity and some hardship, and having your offense not be, the offense that we're used to, but still giving you a chance to win is so crucial, especially during these moments, because we know there's going to be good times with the offense, but can you do your job enough to get it done in a week where things aren't going very well? Because we know the offensive capability is there. We watched that Bears game, guys. That game was over at halftime. Granted, the Chicago Bears are the Chicago Bears, but we know this offense is capable of doing great things. The question is going to be, can the wide receiver step up? And I think that there's a lot of Chiefs fans that just haven't shown that patience that I think is necessary when you have a group of a lot of new guys, rookies. Sky Moore, I think, is the most tenured wide receiver outside of MVS on that team. Like, that's just, you're going to have to give guys time to acclimate, and it's going to take some time for them to explode onto the scene. But I'm really not worried, and I think that in the end, the Chiefs' offense will be okay. Will it take some time? Yes, but we're looking ahead to like week 17 in December and January. Will this offense be good? If you ask me to bet, put money on it, the Chiefs' offense will be just fine. The next thing that we're going to talk about, which is why we believe the Chiefs are going to be the number 1 seed, is divisional dominance. The Kansas City Chiefs have owned the AFC West, and it hasn't been close. Since Andy Reid came to town, I mean, this division has just been the Chiefs' division to lose, and I don't think anything changes this year. Right now, we're in such a weird time in the division because you've had instances where both the Broncos and the Raiders have made all-out moves to try to get better, and they have completely failed. The Raiders gave up 11 sacks on Sunday against the Chargers. Khalil Mack had 6 sacks by himself. Going to the Broncos traded all these assets to get Russell Wilson and traded all these assets for Sean Payton. And right now they're sitting at 1-3 at the bottom of the division. So both of those teams gave up so much to be bad football teams. And the Chargers are run by an incompetent head coach in Brandon Staley who doesn't know how to run a game. And I think that Justin Herbert just, isn't as good as advertised. So right now, the Chiefs are atop of the AFC West with a 3-1 record. The Chargers are 2-2, and the Broncos and Raiders are 1-3. And I'm going to throw these stats out, and then I'll let you talk, Joey. Patrick Mahomes has not lost a divisional game on the road in his career. He's been perfect. Last year, the Chiefs swept through the division. I don't think anything's changing this year.
I don't either. And I've always said with the Chargers, and this it is somewhat of a knock on Justin Herbert. I won't lie. I think he's a good quarterback, but you can take the quarterback out of LA. You can change the head coach. The Chargers are going to charge her. Every year they do this. They had a Hall of Fame head coach, a hell of a roster for 15 years, and they never even made a Super Bowl with it. So I just don't think the Chargers are ready yet. I think they're an example of a team that kind of just went out and threw talent together. And that can work sometimes. But like you said, the leadership there is not good enough for them to acquire all this talent and make it then fit together, and the puzzle pieces make them all fit together. And I just don't think that's going to work. The Broncos are the Broncos, man. Their defense is solid. Don't get me wrong. I think it's I think it's been misleading so far, but I just think the offense is horrendous, and I don't think they're going to be able to outscore Patrick Mahomes. And to me, a lot of these games come down to who can they outscore Patrick Mahomes? And I know that might not be the best way to look at a football game. That's the way I kind of look at it when we have him as quarterback. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to outscore Patrick Mahomes? I don't think so. Is Russell Wilson going to outscore Patrick Mahomes? Nah, I don't think so. Justin Herbert, I don't think can. Definitely not at Arrowhead. And it's a home game for the Chiefs when they go to LA anyway. Yeah. So I don't expect anything different. I think he'll probably drop maybe one division home game like he typically does every year when something weird just happens. But there's nothing that the Chiefs have done so far this season to make me be like, oh, you know what? This makes me nervous. This might be the year. And the other AFC West teams are just horrendous. It's bad football to watch.
It's so bad. And it's crazy because back in 2022, when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, that kind of set the message to the other teams in the AFC West that, the Chiefs let their guard down. The Chiefs are open and available to be dethroned as the champions of the division. And you saw the Broncos and the Chargers and the Raiders go out and throw money at guys to acquire them to finally win this division because they thought it was winnable. Mm-hmm. Weirdly enough, today, the Chargers just traded J.C. Jackson back to the Patriots. The Broncos just released Randy Gregory, a guy they gave like $170 million or something crazy like that. And they, I guess the Raiders released Chandler Jones, the guy that they paid, but he had some other stuff going on. Yeah. But like, even then, like the AFC West sold out to be the Chiefs when they thought they were at their weakest. And the Chiefs came back, won the division, swept them 6-0, and then won the Super Bowl. And right now, it kind of left a disastrous effect in the division because, listen, the Raiders and the Chargers aren't as bad off, I think, as the Broncos are. No. The Broncos are one or two moves away from being really bad for the next 10 years. They traded up so many assets to get the quarterback and the coach, and both the quarterback and the coach suck. So right now, the Broncos are having that problem. But I do think that the Chiefs will probably win all of their divisional games this year. If they do lose, they'll lose one. They'll lose one, and it might be at home because for whatever reason, the Chiefs
drops one at home a year. It just happens.
I don't get it, but that one game tops, and that's assuming that we do lose it all because right now, and granted, it is week 4. We can't be pumping our chest in week 4, but I do think, I guess it's week 5, going into week 5, but I just don't think that this division is special at all. From what we've seen, they've been pretty bad, and all of them have been poorly coached, and we have the better quarterback, the better coach, and probably the better defense. So when you add it all together, The Chiefs have nothing to fear in the AFC West. And I think that the divisional dominance of the Chiefs is why I'm so confident that the Chiefs will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Now, our final point in our reasoning for why the Chiefs will be the number 1 seed in the AFC goes back to AFC uncertainty. This year, the AFC has been very strange. You've had teams like the Miami Dolphins look very good. The Baltimore Ravens have been good. And teams like the Los Angeles Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals have been very bad, really bad. And in a year where people are all over the place and teams are winning and losing games that you didn't normally expect them to lose, the Chiefs remain constant. The Chiefs, their best attribute is their consistency. The Chiefs have been so incredibly consistent under the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era that I trust their consistency and their ability to win games in November and December. And that's why I just am so confident, because while all these, other AFC teams are uncertain and, teams are jumping up and down the leaderboard, the Chiefs always remain constant. And I think that is a very encouraging thing for the Chiefs.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think that the strong starts that we're able to have every single year, going off the consistency thing, it gives them a chance, because then you have an opportunity to, if you have a mid-season lull or some guys get hurt, or, the grind just starts getting too much at the end of the year for some of these younger guys who aren't used to a full NFL season. It gives you leeway. It gives you some room to say, okay, we can drop a game here, even though you never want to lose. But if you do drop a game, you can say, okay, there's not a crazy amount of pressure on us and everything. And just since Patrick Mahomes has become quarterback, what have they done to make us doubt that they won't be consistently a great team in the AFC? Like, they've always been a top 2 seed, except for the year with the AFC championship loss with the Bengals, that we weren't a top 2 seed.
They've been a top 2 seed every year under Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. The only, in his first year, I guess his second year, the year that we won the Super Bowl, we were the 2 seed and they gave us a bye. The NFL changed the rules because, they knew we'd be too powerful if they didn't. But the Chiefs have been the 1 seed almost every single year. And even if they are not the 1 seed, they always have had home field advantage.
Oh yeah. And that's ginormous, because when you have Arrowhead as your home field advantage, like I said, there's certain stadiums that, like for the Chargers, home field advantage don't mean much, except for the fact that the players get to spend the night at their own house. That's about the only thing for them that matters. So for us to be able to make teams come into Arrowhead late in the season, and not even in the playoffs, just late in the season, like, it with big implications. Now, granted, the NFL normally schedules our games with the Bengals, the Bills earlier on, but still, the stadium's electric. And this team just plays in those tough adversity kind of games that builds them for these playoffs. So when you get late in the season, they've already basically had everything thrown at them that was going to be thrown at them no matter what, and they're ready for everything. And when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes with that talent, who's just so calm and composed under center, and he's just able to make plays when everything breaks down and nothing else looks like it's going to work, and he can pull something out of his butt to do it. That's just the way he plays. And I have no reason in my mind to be like, you know what? Even if the wide receiver core is not great, even if we have questions with some of the O-linemen, the tackles or whatever, and none of it matters, because the talent that you do have in your quarterback and head coach, it outweighs everything else. That's really, to me, the main component you need to win games in the National Football League. And there's not a better pairing in the NFL than what we have.
Well, in those 2 games that you mentioned that the NFL always schedules, the Bills and the Bengals, both of those games, we play the Eagles this year too. Those games are later on in the season. So we're going to have to maybe stack some wins in the AFC specifically to kind of give us a little cushion just in case. Because the Bengals, I don't care what you think about them, they suck right now, but they always give the Chiefs trouble. And so you have to take them seriously or they're going to beat you. But I think that those games are going to be big, obviously. Those are the 2 heavy hitters in the AFC, or at least that's what they've been in years prior. Yeah. But really quickly, I wanted to go over the AFC playoff picture right now, read you who is who's in the hunt right now. I guess who has the who's ranked in which seed. Again, it's week 5, so these don't really mean much, but you can get a good idea of who's in what spot. So right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are atop of the AFC playoff picture at 3-1. The reason that they are atop of the playoff picture at 3-1 when there's some other teams at 3-1 is because the Chiefs have not lost a game in the AFC. They lost that game to the Lions, but they're an NFC team. So the Chiefs haven't lost an AFC conference game, which is why they're number one. The Baltimore Ravens are in the 2 seed at 3-1. The Buffalo Bills are in the 3 seed at 3-1 as well. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Colts are the 4 seed at 2-2. I would assume that's because they're winning their division right now. The 5 seed is the Miami Dolphins. They're at 3-1. They've looked really good this year. The 6 seed is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which the Pittsburgh Steelers are the 6 seed at 2-2. And then to round out the AFC playoff picture, the Cleveland Browns are the 7 seed at 2-2. Teams on the bubble, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Houston Texans. So kind of interesting to see Jacksonville not in the mix there. But again, it's week 5. But some of the teams that are notable to talk about, the Ravens have been good, the Dolphins have been good, and the Bills have been good. So, the Bills have been a constant good, but there's some new teams in the mix.
Oh, for sure. And I think it makes the league exciting. Like, I think that's what's the best part about football is, obviously as Chiefs fans, we're going to say, I want to win a Super Bowl every year. I don't care. And, we went through it with the Patriots where we were saying, oh, God, here we go again. Tom Brady's second, third straight Super Bowl, whatever. Now that we're in that position, that's all we want. But, it's cool to see some of these, and just not even from a Chiefs perspective, just as a football fan, Anthony Richardson is so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Just watching him is a ton of fun. You can't help but not like to watch Lamar Jackson play football. I mean, regardless of what you think, whether it's a winning style or whatever, it's electric football. And so when you have some of these teams that so far have been competitive, I mean, the Steelers, I don't know what is going to happen there since Kenny Pickett is kind of hurt now and their roster is already, but they got Mike Tomlin. So Mike Tomlin doesn't wind up losing too many games typically, but it'll be a fun kind of season to go through. And, we're a fourth of the way through basically now. And it's going to be exciting to see the way the rest of the season shapes up.
It will be, because I think a lot of the teams that I mentioned, like the Browns and the Steelers and even the Colts, they're not going to be there when week 17 is done. So I think that right now we have a very early picture of what the AFC is going to look like. But the Chiefs are atop of that. They could be in a lot worse of a position. And I think that, to your point that you made earlier, the Chiefs start off the season so hot that they build up this lead and this cushion that they don't coast. But once you get in first place, it's easier to stay in first place than crawl from 5th place to first place.
Oh, absolutely.
So since the Chiefs have built this, reputation of starting hot early, they're the 1 seed right now. And unless they absolutely choke and lose a bunch of games, they're probably going to be in the 1 seed. Because guess what? You lose a game, Buffalo also loses a game, Cincinnati also loses a game. So you still stay there because you built your cushion beating the teams that you're supposed to beat. So I don't really think I have anything else to add. I guess I'll wrap up in conclusion going over the points that we made for why the Chiefs are the number 1 seed in the AFC. I think the Chiefs defense has been electric this year. And at the end of the season, this could be a top 3 defensive unit. So that is certainly a reason why they're going to be the best team in the AFC. The Chiefs' offensive potential, they've got Patrick Mahomes, they've got Andy Reid, they've got Travis Kelce. Relax, guys. They'll figure it out. I think the Chiefs' offensive potential alone is warranting of them being the best team in the AFC. And I do think they're going to figure it out. And when they do, it's going to be scary. The third reason is the divisional dominance. The Chiefs have been so good in the AFC West. That's not going to change this year. And so since they can win within their division, they're going to probably be the best team in the AFC just because you're going to have 5 or 6 wins from your own division. The final point was the AFC uncertainty. The AFC has been so up and down this year, and it's probably going to continue to be that way. And the Chiefs have always remained consistent, and consistency wins in the long run. So I think that for those reasons, the Chiefs will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. That's really all we've got, guys. For Michael Darcy and Joey Segura, thank you for watching this Kansas City Chiefs live stream presented by Bleacher Report.